Welcome to the Metal Bob Live podcast. I am your host, Metal Bob. Today's show is brought to you by Legend Picks, also artist Jeremiah Kalleck, and please help me welcome our newest sponsor, the Texas Vinyl Coalition. You can find links to our sponsors and more on the Metal Bob Live website. There you can also find links to the latest Metal Bob gear, including shirts, hoodies, and more. On today's show, I had the honor of speaking with Ted Renner, rhythm guitarist and lead vocalist for the Hong Kong Sleepover. We discussed my first encounter with the band. We also discussed their annual St. Jude's benefit show. And I also asked Ted what we can expect next from the band. So sit back, have a listen, and enjoy the show. Thank you. Hello, Ted.
Hello, how we doing?
Doing great, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
I appreciate you taking your time out of your day, brother.
No problem. Happy to. Always happy to.
Yeah, man. So what you been up to, man?
Well, not too much. Just kind of, I think the girlfriend and I have been fortunate enough to, that we can work from home and stuff like that, but the band hasn't been doing really anything.
Yeah, I know it, dude. It's unfortunate, man. So I talked to you guys. I don't know if you remember me or not. I talked to you guys, been a few years ago. The first time I ever seen you guys play was at the Ragged Records.
Okay.
I was involved in the podcast back then called Nothing Shocking. We interviewed you guys after you played a record store day. Yep.
I remember it. I do.
And at that time, when I went in there, I'm like, I don't even know who these guys are. I didn't know nothing about the band. I had no idea what I was about to witness, and I was just blown away.
Well, good. We like to hear that.
And I think I told you at the interview at that time, I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, you guys, your music makes me want to break shit.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, I was like,
great.
Good Lord. So, hey, I know you guys just put out Butcher and Bolt. Is there any new music in the works?
Yeah, so one thing we did, whenever we're writing, we'll turn the computer on and we'll set everything up and we just record whatever comes out. And just kind of from doing that, then we go back and we listen and we're like, we'll develop this into a song or we'll develop that into a song, And so we've always got some stuff, sitting around. By the way, my neighbor's mowing his yard, so if you hear something in the background, that's kind of what it is. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
So we have all that stuff, and we right after we put out Butcher and Bolt, we kind of came in here and we said, okay, those are done, and then we went back and we listened to everything else, and then there were a lot of other songs in there that we've started working on, and then with the quarantine, the way it's been for the last couple of months, I've been able to work on some lyrics. So there's one song that we started new. There's a couple of songs where we kind of went back into the archives and I've been putting lyrics to. So there's a good 3 that we got a kind of a foothold into. And then there's a few more. So I think we've kind of decided that we're not going to do the album thing anymore. Because it seems like we write 3 or 4 songs, and then it takes forever to write enough to get to an album, but we can write 3 or 4 pretty quick. So I think what we're going to start doing from now on is we get 3 or 4 down that we're good with, that we're comfortable with, we're going to release those. Probably, more than likely, it'll probably all just be digital.
Right. I've seen a lot of people are doing that these days, releasing just singles, maybe one or 2 every 3 or 4 months.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, hey, can you give me a little background on the Hong Kong Sleepover? How'd you guys become a band?
Sure. So, started a long time ago. I want to say, like in the 2005 era, we started as a cover band, and we had a different bass player. And so we started playing shows, and we wrote about 5 songs together. And our bass player sang 3 of them, and I sang 2 of them. And then, you know, kind of after about 2 years, we kind of had a parting of the ways with that bass player. And it was one of those things where he's still a really, really good friend, a really close friend to us, and we love him. But it was just three of us wanted to play music one way, and one of us wanted to play music a different way. So he left. We kept 2 songs. He took the other 3 with him. And then when we got rid of him, we had no idea what we were going to do. We didn't have a bass player lined up. We didn't have anybody that we even knew that was going to, you know, that would be remotely interested. So we kind of shot ourselves in the foot, you know. And then it just so happened, you know, we spent about 3 months not playing shows, writing music. And at the end of that 3 months, I think we had about 7 songs. And just kind of so happened we met Waylon one day, who had just moved here. He was 18 years old. He'd moved here from Georgia to be with his wife, the woman that he's married to now. Moved here, got married. He had just turned 18, like 5 days before we started playing with him, and that was like 2007. And then so we've been together. We've been, you know, practicing until the quarantine. We've been practicing twice a week, every week since 2007, playing shows. You know, we put out 3 albums, an EP, a live DVD. We enjoyed doing it, you know.
Yeah.
That's about the background, I think.
And you hit the jackpot when you got Waylon, man. He's a great guy.
Yeah, we did. You know, a bass player has always been somebody that's very difficult to find, at least around this area. You know, it seemed like everybody was playing drums or guitar, but nobody was playing bass. So when you find a bass player, that's one thing. When you find a good bass player, that's even better. So,
absolutely. So, hey, man. So when you think the next single's going to drop?
What's that? When
do you think the next single's going to drop?
You know, as soon as we're actually going to start practicing again on Tuesday. We have not practiced together. We've not stood in the same room together since March. We had 2 shows at the beginning of March, and then when we got back, right when we got back from those shows, I was sick for a couple of days, and Pete was sick for a couple of days. And then the next thing you know, it's like everybody's being told to shelter in place and quarantine and all this. So Tuesday is when we're going to start getting back together. I'd like for us to be able to put 2 or 3 songs together. You know, 4 would be something I'd like to shoot for. Put 4 songs together and maybe have some of that drop by, you know, November, somewhere around in there, if at all possible. So that's what I'd like to do. But you know, we're working with a manager now, and he's real good on saying, you know, this would be the time to do these things, or that would be the time to do these things. So you know, it's going to kind of be what the band thinks, and what, you know, and talking to him what he thinks and things like that.
Right. So when you do your writing, is it mainly a couple of you guys, or is it a whole band collaboration, or how do you do most of your writing?
It's a band. It's always been a complete collaboration. Like, you know, every now and then somebody may come in with a riff, but that doesn't happen very often. Usually it's, you know, as we're set up and we're starting to jam a little bit, somebody will come up with something just kind of on the spot, and then it evolves a little bit, you know. Pete throws a lot of the initial riffs in. The weird thing is, though, Pete's got this odd sense of timing, and so he'll play something, and usually it seems like Waylon or I have to shave a note off of it or add a note onto it to get it to kind of work with drums and things like that. And then Nick is really good on, you know, Pete will play something or I'll play something, you know, and we'll kind of hear it one way, and then Mike will come in with the drums, and just from the beat that he puts down can completely change it. You know, it gives it a completely different vibe. And usually I'll say that, you know, 90% of the time, once Tricky starts putting a drum track to it, it sounds even better than what we thought it was going to be to begin with. So we're really fortunate about a lot of that. and Waylon is great as far as, he knows what to do. Him and Mike work so well together, and Waylon understands that, they are the rhythm section. He's very big on pushing. They are the rhythm section. They are the ones that do this, So, it's always great. Pete writes all of his own leads. When we go to record, we may say, hey, hold that note out a little longer, or speed up there, or slow down there. But for the most part, Pete writes all his own leads. I write lyrics. So, that's kind of the dynamic that's worked well for us, for as long as it has.
Right. Hey, another question I had. So you guys do a St. Jude's benefit every year. You want to elaborate a little bit of that on for us?
Yeah. So, we haven't been able to do it every year, but we've done it for a couple of years off and on. So years ago, it seemed like if somebody got hurt, or if, somebody knew somebody that had cancer, or, wrecked their car or whatever, it seemed like somebody would throw a benefit. Like I always remember we'd go to Canton for a benefit, or somebody'd have a benefit here in Combe at a place called Swanee's office, And we were sitting around, having drinks, after band practice one night at my house. And, somebody started to talk about, I remember that benefit. That was a lot of fun. I remember this. It was a lot of fun. And those kind of shows, there were like 30 musicians there. And, they'd play with the band that we're in, but maybe they'd jam a little bit. But it was always a good time because, all you had to do was show up for about an hour, play some music, and then hang out and buy beer and, kind of help for the cause. And everybody just had so much fun. Well, we were talking about one of those old benefits, and one of the guys, I think it was Cullen, our drummer, was like, why are we waiting? Why don't we pick a cause and just start doing this, on a regular basis, get different bands, get different people, And so we started to look into these things, and our bass player, Waylon kind of said that St. Jude's has got one of the best management structures, where they're not paying their manager, they're not paying the people that work for them this exorbitant amount of money. The money's really going to the kids, and it's really going to the families. And, nobody should see their kid suffer. No kid should ever suffer, just flat out. But not, I'm sure it's heart-wrenching for the parents and all these types of things. So we decided that, that was going to be it. That was the charity that we were going to work toward. And I think the first time we did it, we raised like $1,000. I cannot remember the number off the top of my head. So we were like, okay, that was really cool. The last time we did it, just what we did in December, we were very happy. We were thinking, okay, well, if we can raise $2,000, anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500, that'll be our goal. We ended up sending them a check for $4,250. So, it was pretty amazing that we were able to do all that this time around. So, yeah, $4,250, and and they sent us a letter back and thanking us for everything, and so it was good. It was very, it's very satisfying and rewarding to do that. And, all the bands donated their time. Some of the bands that we played with this last time, they donated some of their merch money, I thought that was great that they sold T-shirts, and when they got done selling their T-shirts, they just turned around and said, put this money in that kitty, So it was great. We had a great time, and it's fun. It is, you get to hang out with a lot of musicians and just enjoy it.
Man, that's great, dude. That, and the reason I asked you that question, because that's an organization that's near and dear to me and my wife's heart. We donate to them monthly. We love that organization. And are you guys going to try to do that again this year if possible?
Yes, we'd like to. When the place in town that we did it at the first time we did it closed up. So that was the reason that it was, you know, it'd been a while until we did it again. But the organization, or the place that's here in town now that we got a hold of, they were like, "This is great. We're thrilled that you did it. We're thrilled that you did it here." And they said, then, you know, they were happy. It's the place is known as the Forum here in Macomb. And so they were like, "Yeah, you know, that all worked out well. We'd be happy to look at talking to you about doing it again." So I think we're going to try and do it, you know, depending on how everything goes with, you know, COVID-19, but we'd love to.
Great. Well, let me know if that happens, man, because I'd love to bring the podcast up there and do like a live remote, man. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We'd appreciate that.
Yeah, man. And anything I can ever do to help, you know, promote you guys or promote the cause, man, just give me a holler.
Thank you very much. I'm always happy to hear things like that. You know?
Man, yeah. Like I said, that organization is near and dear to our heart, man. We donate to that on a monthly basis, man. It's always been one of my wife's, you know, big goals. You know, her dream job is to work there someday, man. So I hope that works out.
Yeah.
And so just moving on. So what were some of your musical influences growing up?
I was a big Metallica fan. You know, some friends of mine got to go see. They went to an Ozzy Osbourne show, and Ozzy was opening. Metallica was opening for Ozzy. I had never heard of him. My friends that went to the Ozzy show had never heard of him. And I remember they came back with a copy of Master of Puppets from that show. And I remember that was the first time I was introduced to Metallica was with the Master of Puppets album. And that just changed everything for me. Changed all kinds of things. You know, I was just dumbfounded. And it was really a lot of that. Metallica, Megadeth, Iron Maiden, you know, some Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, things like that. Really just kind of, you know, I got my hooks into all that. And that, you know, I always remember learning a lot of those songs when I was a kid, or playing cover bands, and we were always playing some heavier stuff like that. You know, that was it for me. That was where it was. You know, and I was always a rhythm guitar player, you know, playing and stuff like that. Never wanted to sing, never aspired, you know, never aspired to be a singer. And just one day the lead singer that we had, the band I was in, he quit. And so I was like, well, I'll kind of do this until we find somebody. And it just turned out it stuck with me. And I've been the lead singer in pretty much every band I've been in since then. You know, obviously Motorhead, listening to a lot of those guys growing up. So yeah, I mean, those are the kind of where it came from for me.
And I know you hear this a lot, man. You know, you got a little bit of that Lemmy in you.
Yep, I do hear that. And, you know, it's funny because I think it just depends on the song. I think it depends a little bit on the key, and I think it depends on how much I push for a particular song. Because there's some songs where I can back way off, and it's not there. But, you know, then sometimes, yeah, I do get that.
Yeah.
So, and you know, hell, it's not the worst thing that somebody could tell you is that you sound like Lemmy. You know,
ain't nothing wrong with that, dude. Lemmy's a god, brother.
Oh yeah, God, that dude. Yeah, Motorhead just was so great, man, and so different. You know, like they weren't trying to be technically the best band ever. They weren't trying to, you know, do all kinds of crazy weird harmonies and put all kinds of weird stuff together. You know, they were just like, no. It's straightforward. 3 chords, playing music, screaming into the mic, running around stage, having a lot of fun. So
right. I remember doing the All-Star Jam with you a few years back because I was involved in the MDR Jam. It's been, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and I had ran into him. We talked a little bit, and man, when you guys got up and did your set with Jim and Waylon and all those guys, and you did Eat the Rich, oh my God, dude, that blew the roof off the place. That was great.
I had never done that song. So, you know, obviously when we started talking to those guys, Motorhead, you know, was one of the first songs that came up. And I was like, yeah, okay, I get it, whatever. But I told him, I said, I've done a couple of Motorhead songs. I want to do one I've never done before. And I honestly don't know why I've never done Eat the Rich. It was popular. As a matter of fact, rock and roll, the rock and roll album from Motorhead is one of my favorite Motorhead albums. It's just a classic album. And I've done a bunch of songs off that, but I've never done Eat the Rich. So yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, but we're also going to do some Sabbath and things like that. So.
Right. And
that was a lot of fun.
I had no idea you were going to do a Motorhead song that night. I know that whole thing was kind of a secret of what the bands were going to play, and I think we got up that night and we did LA Guns and we did a Faster Pussycat song. And then, we were later on in the night. You guys were earlier on. And I had actually introduced my son to you that night, if you remember that. And I said, hey, this guy's great, man. They're the Hong Kong Sleepover, man. You got to check these guys out. And he's a big fan. And when you guys got up there and did that song, I about shit. I was like, oh hell, here it comes. Here it comes, man.
That's awesome.
And
thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh,
man.
dude, I love you guys, man.
Thank you.
So, I guess my next question is: so you guys are going to start putting out a bunch of new singles and different things. You probably won't do another full length album, or is that a possibility?
Probably not. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about. Was we feel like it takes too long for us to get to a full album, because I think there was 5 years between Butcher and Bolt, or between Bolshevik Firecrackers and Butcher and Bolt. I think there was 5 years.
Right.
And and it was like we had enough songs. I mean, we had 4 songs within a year of that album being out, so we could have put out 4 songs, and then probably, at least another 4 songs in the next 2 years. But it just seems like when you're holding on to that stuff, you're playing it live, so you really can't, keep it very long. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you're not selling it, but you're playing it and whatever. So yeah, I think we'd like to stick with the 3 to 4 song release, and then not look at another full album. Right. Which is kind of, it's a little bit sad as far as, I like to have an album. I like to put out an album, but the way the music industry is, nobody's doing that. So
exactly. Well, I mean, that seems to be the format anymore anyway. Singles they seem to be the ones that sell anyway. I mean,
yeah,
they outsell the full albums, it seems like. I mean, and it just seems to be the way to go. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
I would agree.
Yeah. So, hey, tell me a little bit about, I know you work for the University of Western Illinois, man. What do you do at that place, man?
So, yeah, I've got the most boring job on the planet. So, I'm a deputy director at facilities management. So, my job specifically, I mean, facilities management, we take care of the university, and my job is, so I work in planning and design. So if we have a big project that comes along for the university, whether we're going to build a building or do a remodel or whatever, myself, and then I've got 2 guys that work directly for me, we will take those projects, and so we will administrate them and oversee them and make sure the contractor is following the design and doing what the university wants and what we need. And we do that from big projects all the way down to, little $500 projects. I've got a project right now that we're looking at that's going to be a $94 million project, building a new building on campus. We're looking at, a new science facility, a new performing arts center. I know we've got millions of dollars for electrical upgrades. The state is actually starting to recognize the deficiencies over the budget impasse that we had over 3 years, and they're really starting to give us money to help do the things we need to do. So that's fantastic, and we're very happy about that.
Right on, man.
Yeah,
that's great. So I'm going to ask you this question. I ask everybody this question, and nobody can ever answer it. You ready?
Go for it.
If you had one album you could not live without, what would it be?
Oh, one album out of all of them, one album that I could not live without.
It's a tough one.
Boy, the first one, it is a tough one. One of the first albums that comes to mind, I'm gonna have to say it's got to be AC/DC. For Those About to Rock.
That's a great.
It's one of my all-time favorites. And everybody always hits on Back in Black. Everyone talks about Back in Black. Or everyone talks about High Voltage. Honestly, I think the absolute peak of AC/DC was For Those About to Rock, because the production. I feel like the production and the songs on that album were better than they were on Back in Black, which Back in Black was amazing.
Right.
To follow up Back in Black with For Those About to Rock is just unreal.
Right.
So
it would have been interesting, because I know some people don't know that Bon Scott was actually scheduled to be the vocalist on Back in Black. Those songs were already wrote.
Yeah.
Before it would have been interesting to see what Bon Scott would have did with those songs.
Yes. I agree. I think that would have been amazing.
And not to knock Brian Johnson, man, he stepped in and he filled some big ass shoes in that band.
Yeah, and they went from a guy that was so very unique, like, Bon Scott, to Brian, and to somebody who's just as unique in Brian Johnson. I thought that was great. So yeah, and that was another thing. I've in bands I've been in over the years, cover bands and things like that. Always done Bon Scott songs, because I can just barely get his range. But then the Brian Johnson stuff, man, there's no way. Brian Johnson is the only one that can sing Brian Johnson.
Exactly. Yeah, his stuff is definitely harder to sing than Bon's stuff, man. He's got that. He just got that little bit extra up there, man.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, hey, man, is there anything you would like to promote at this time? You guys want to promote your website? Anything you want to give a shout out to, man? Just go ahead, brother.
Yeah, HongKongSleepover.com. That, or you can go to Bandcamp and access it there. Anything, we've got all kinds of our merch is all online for sale, and any of our music, you can buy music right there online. Typically, whenever somebody buys something, I'm the one that goes and gets it, out of the closet and packs it up and mails it to you. So, everything you get from us is touched by my loving hands before it goes out the door.
There you go.
So yeah, we've got we've been on Spotify here recently, and our managers kind of put us on some different playlists and things like that on Spotify. So, it's kind of cool to go out and find a band that and look for some different playlists, and then you can see what other bands, other local bands, people have kind of paired them with. So that's kind of a cool thing. And then also, if you go to the Hong Kong Sleepover, you can find our artist page on Spotify. We each came up with, I think, either 3 or 5 songs that we put on a playlist. So if you go to that Spotify page, you can listen to, like, I think either 18 or 20 songs that the Hong Kong Sleepover said, these are songs we love. These are artists and songs we love as well. So it kind of gets you an idea of some of the inspiration and things like that, and then and it also spreads the love out to other people as well.
Absolutely. Hey, man, speaking of merchandise, man, I reached out to you a few years ago, and you had gotten a package sent out to me so we could do it at a benefit for one of my nieces, and I really appreciate that, man.
No problem. We're happy to do things like that, man. Yeah.
That worked out really good, man. I appreciate it. And also,
cool. Happy to help.
I need you to help me out, brother, because I need a 4X T-shirt Hong Kong Sleepover, man. Can you make that happen?
Next time we order shirts, I will make that happen.
Make it happen for me, man. I'm a big dog, so I need a bigger shirt.
No, I got you. Next time we order shirts, I'll make sure that we get one. I might have one now. I'd have to look through the trailer. Our merch is not here at the moment. We've been reorganizing some things, but yeah, I can look and see what we got. Seems like I do have something 4X. now.
If you got one, brother, I'll send you the money or whatever. However we got to do it, man. Just get it to me.
Perfect. Let me see what I can find.
All right, I appreciate that. Hey, also, man, so going back to the benefit for the St. Juice thing, I would love to donate my time and come out there and do a live remote, man, set up my equipment, man, interview the bands, whatever I can do to help, man. I'm more than happy to do that for you.
That would be fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll remember that, and when we get closer to, being able to do something like that, we'll definitely be in touch with you.
That'd be great, man. I appreciate you, brother.
No, same here. Appreciate all the hard work.
Man, dude. And is there anything else you'd like to talk about or anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to tell the people about?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything.
Well, brother, I appreciate you, man. You have a great rest of your day, man, and it's always good talking to you, Ted.
It's always good talking to you too, man. Thank you very much.
All right,
I'm always happy to do things like this, and I really appreciate you giving me a call.
All right, brother.
Or you got.
Hope we can have you back on in the future, man. Appreciate you.
We'd be happy to. Thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing.
Take care, brother.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
That concludes today's episode of the Metal Bob Live podcast. Please go to our website to check out our sponsor links. And thank you for listening. Metal Bob out.